In this episode, I'm giving you a little sneak peek behind the scenes at how our firm approaches each of our consulting engagements. Our focus today will be twofold. First, I'll share with you the way we employ a concept we call the pretextual justification. Second, I'll discuss how that concept, pretextual justification, intersects with each organization's unique corporate culture. The combination of these two ideas serves as the foundation of every political strategy we design and deploy for our clients. Right about now, you're probably thinking, John, what on earth is a pretextual justification and why should I care? I know it's a term that might be unfamiliar to many of you, but if you have any interest in learning how to navigate the ranks of executive leadership with well-honed political savvy, then you've got to adopt this concept into how you look at every aspect of your corporate career. That's why I've carved out this episode. How do these concepts impact organizational power dynamics? And how does understanding the subtle nuances of a company's culture shape your opportunities to gain political capital? Well, let me give you a little spoiler alert here. It's all about controlling the narrative and managing the optics. Let's get to work.
Navigating business politics, mapping your path to power. You're listening to the Durable Leadership Podcast. Here's your host, John Lamb.
Okay, for the first time in a public setting, I'm about to give you a glimpse into a huge piece of the foundational framework my team and I employ across all of our consulting engagements. This is more than just a set of tactics. It's a comprehensive strategy that's been fine-tuned to ensure our clients emerge victorious in the often complex and murky arena of corporate politics. Now, to begin with, I need you to understand something. I need you to understand a fundamental aspect of our approach to consulting. Now, although our ultimate objective is always internally understood as helping our clients get more power, for obvious reasons, that language is never expressed anywhere. For each engagement, this particular goal is only ever discussed amongst a small group of individuals that includes the senior partners of our firm, the client relationship manager who serves as the PM for each engagement, and of course, the sponsoring executive who is bringing us on board, the person whom we are trying to help get more power. Our client's desire to accumulate more power and control is conspicuously absent in all of our official communications. That objective exists neither in the proposals, nor in the invoices, nor in any other communication. What's reflected in the proposal and in the invoice, by the way, that the company pays for, is terminology that's more palatable, more corporate friendly, something like services rendered for an OD consulting engagement. This wording aligns what we put in our needs analysis pitch meeting with the steering committee's approval process, which reduces resistance and facilitates acceptance. Now, internally, however, we maintain a clear distinction between the executive sponsor whom we are serving, again, whom we internally consider our client, and the company we are interfacing with, whom we internally call our patron. This terminology might seem unconventional in traditional management consulting settings, but we need to differentiate our primary allegiance, which is to the individual executive, from the implementation arena, which is the organization. This dual focus allows us a lot of latitude. It gives us the ability to navigate complex political landscapes effectively, ensuring that our efforts are aligned with our clients' aspirations while also satisfying the broader organizational objectives. Okay, I get it. This approach may seem unorthodox, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable, well, welcome to a day in the life of a management consultant who specializes in organizational politics. I don't know what to tell you. That's why I exist. This is the reality of high-stakes, high-impact executive leadership, where success often hinges on the ability to maneuver discreetly within multifaceted power structures. In our practice, Clarity of purpose, strategic foresight, and a keen understanding of how to control the narrative and manage the optics are indispensable tools. If you find this perspective a little unsettling, maybe it's because you're getting your first real insight into the nuanced and high-pressure world of organizational politics. It's a world where subtle influence and strategic positioning are paramount to executing your agenda because when the ultimate prize is the consolidation of power, you better be willing to roll up your sleeves to get control of your destiny. Otherwise, someone else will. Okay, in the first phase of our engagements, our team positions ourselves to the steering committee and the other executives, which typically involves everyone in the C-suite and a few other senior VPs. We position ourselves under the guise of improving organizational efficiencies. This initial step in the contracting phase is not only to clarify expectations, but also to secure the necessary budget for our consulting engagement, a move that's managed by the executive sponsor. In other words, again, our client. That executive sponsor, our client, presents us as trusted experts in addressing a particular organizational pain point that they are all experiencing. Now, when it comes to the full stack of our consulting services, we only work with individuals who have the authority to make this happen. Anyone who can't muster the internal political capital even to get this done is probably not ready for us to bring our entire team on board. And we do offer private coaching as an individualized advisory practice, but obviously there's only so much that can be done when we're at arm's length and we don't have our team fully embedded. We love to teach and guide junior executives through learning how to accumulate political capital, but without boots on the ground, it's simply not possible for us to have enough intelligence and enough situational awareness to develop a robust political strategy. Now, once on board, our team embarks on an in-depth analysis of the political landscape. We deploy a team of junior consultants and analysts into the organization to gather intel. We become the client's political eyes and ears. Now, this process involves identifying critical players within the organization, delineating alliances and adversaries, and understanding who holds sway over various power bases. This mapping is pivotal in tailoring our approach to the client's specific context and needs. After we feel like we have a good grasp on the political landscape, we craft what we call the pretextual justification that we would use as the impetus for the recommendations we would bring back to the organization. Okay, let's double click on that. My goal today is to help you unpack this peculiar consulting term. While it may sound unusual and esoteric, it's absolutely critical for you to fully understand this term if you have any plans to carve out your path to power. So let's dig into the definition. A pretextual justification is a seemingly business-oriented, high-level rationale used to ostensibly legitimize the interventions and solutions proposed by our consulting team. Now, while on the surface, these recommendations appear to be in service to the organization, in actuality, they're really nothing more than a cover story to give us a smokescreen as we execute the covert strategies and tactics designed to outmaneuver our clients' political rivals and consolidate our clients' power within the company. In other words, it's a business sounding excuse used to make changes aimed at advancing our client's personal agenda and political objectives. This is always the first step in engineering a new political campaign. Anchoring our actions to a noble cause that no one in their right mind would stand against, is foundational to lowering our opponent's defenses. Now, I've got a few examples of pretextual justifications that we use pretty often. Here's one of our favorite pretextual justifications: organizational efficiencies. Have you ever heard of that? Of course you have. Of course you have. When we use this pretextual justification, we often propose a restructuring plan that simplifies reporting lines or reduces costs or increases speed, whatever it is, all in the name of organizational efficiencies. Who would be opposed to that, right? This looks good to everyone, but in actuality, this was really about shifting layers that weaken our clients' control, authority, and power and moving those layers over to our clients' political adversaries. Okay, here's another example of a pretextual justification. Have you ever been in an organization going through a culture transformation initiative? When we use this pretextual justification, we're advocating for a shift in the company's culture to foster more, anything. It doesn't really matter. Something like more collaboration or more forward-thinking innovation. While this sounds like it benefits the company, it's actually a way for us to transfer or fire people who don't support our client. I mean, cough, cough, who don't fit in with the new culture, wink, wink. You know exactly what I mean. Have you ever heard of someone who unceremoniously left the company because they no longer fit with or work with the new culture after a team of consultants like ours has been on site? Well, now you know why. All right, one more example. Have you ever been part of a project focused on process improvement? Again, of course you have. This pretextual justification is something we use very often. When we use this pretextual justification, this entails proposing new protocols for managing the processes or the resources or the budget or the headcount or whatever it is that we need to corral, consolidate, and centralize, and thereby subtly increasing our client's control over critical aspects of the business. We suggest new policies and new protocols for handling these issues, which just so happens to improve our cherry-picked metrics to justify the entire initiative. But ultimately, the net result is that our client ends up with more power and political capital than they would have without our interventions. In each of these cases, in each case, the pretextual justification serves a dual purpose. It provides a publicly palatable and rational reason for our proposed interventions and solutions, while simultaneously masking the primary intent of enhancing our client's power and influence within the organization. Are the pretextual justifications vague? Yes. Nebulous? Absolutely. Are they dripping with cringeworthy business jargon like disruptive synergy and leverage bandwidth? Of course it is, by design. Let me give you 3 reasons why. First, it enables wider interpretation. Broad terms can unite various factions within an organization under a standard banner. Even if their interpretations of the initiatives differ, they're still united under what we call our pretextual justification. Generic justifications allow for different groups within the organization to interpret the initiative in a way that aligns with their interests, increasing overall buy-in. Vague justifications are more likely to gain acceptance across various stakeholder groups by giving everyone a Rorschach test to project their own ideals onto. We avoid triggering resistance that might otherwise arise from more specific and potentially contentious details. Second, it affords us flexibility in execution. Generic terms provide leeway in implementing our actual political strategy. This flexibility allows for adjustments and refinements as the situation evolves or as more information becomes available. In a dynamic business environment, specific plans might become obsolete too quickly. So vague justifications allow for pivoting and adapting without appearing inconsistent. And lastly, it facilitates plausible deniability. In high-stakes corporate politics, disguising our true objective is necessary to navigating the power structures subtly. Vagueness conceals the actual agenda, especially if it involves sensitive power realignments. If the real agenda behind the initiative becomes contentious, Then vagueness allows for plausible deniability. Defending or redirecting a broad strategy is a lot easier and much more accessible than defending or redirecting a specific one. Okay, up next, after a quick break, I have an important warning for those of you who are enthusiastically ready to try your hand at crafting your own pretextual justification. We're going to zero in on one of the most important and most significant blind spots of those who are inexperienced that can turn an ambitious political strategy into a disastrous misstep. So stay tuned. Let's get straight to the point. Politics is not leadership, but you can't be a leader without power. And how do you get and keep power? Through politics. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? Well, welcome to my world. I'm Dr. John Lamb. For the past 15 years, I've had the tremendous good fortune to lead a team of management consultants in a very specialized practice. Using our combined expertise in change management, organizational development, and corporate governance, we design, develop, and deploy bespoke political strategies with a singular focus to help our clients win the game of enterprise politics. Here's a gist of how that works. First, before our engagement officially begins, we have a private strategy alignment session to understand our client's executive vision, the current political landscape of the company, and the obstacles hindering our client's accumulation of more political capital. With that as a foundation, we position our team to the other executives as experts in addressing their specific organizational pain points. We then deploy a team of junior consultants and analysts to ostensibly collect data for our consulting engagement, but in actuality, they are covertly gathering information on the network of critical stakeholders, alliances, and adversaries. And finally, we implement the interventions designed to funnel specific resources into our control, which sets up the legitimacy, validity, and authority for our proposed solutions, which ultimately accomplishes the only objective we care about. That is to help our client consolidate power. Now, we recognize that our full-stack consulting service isn't suitable or accessible for everyone. That's why we've distilled 15 years of expertise into an exclusive one-on-one coaching service. This program is tailored for ambitious professionals who are serious about mastering the art of enterprise politics and power dynamics. Our availability for this service is intentionally limited. We invest deeply in each individual, meaning we need to accept only those with the determination and raw talent to master the high-stakes gamesmanship of the political arena. If you're ready to accelerate your career trajectory and expand your influence within your organization, we invite you to apply. Visit durableleadership.com/coaching to fill out your application. Remember, when it comes to success in the executive ranks, you need to get the power necessary to control your destiny before someone else takes the reins. Visit durableleadership.com/coaching to fill out your application today. For those of you who are eager to put this into practice, I know this all makes perfect sense to you, but let me give you a few words of caution here. Constructing a pretextual justification without a deep understanding of the organizational context in which you operate is like trying to walk through your kid's playroom barefooted and blindfolded. Sure, you might have a general idea of where the furniture is placed and where the big toys might be, but are you certain you won't step on a few Lego bricks along the way? I could argue, and I often do with many of my colleagues, that constructing the pretextual justification is the foundation we use to control the narrative and manage the optics. If there's a misalignment between the pretextual justification and the organization's existing culture, then the consequences can be disastrous for the political strategy. This kind of misstep risks not only immediately alienating all of the key stakeholders, but also it could trigger a ripple effect of distrust and resistance throughout the entire organization. At the very least, it can lead to heightened scrutiny, undermining the credibility of both our client and our consulting efforts. In the worst case scenario, this misalignment can solidify opposition against our client, such that the power bases and political capital that we wanted to consolidate are instead used against us to suffocate our efforts. An ill-fitted pretextual justification doesn't just fail to advance our client's agenda. It's worse than that. It's counterproductive. It raises suspicion. It actively works against us, setting the stage for a potential organizational backlash that can be difficult, if not impossible, to recover from. This is why executing such a critical step needs to be entrusted to seasoned professionals. Our team has years of experience in knowing how to align the optics of our interventions and solutions with the often unspoken and unstated expectations of the organization. It's an art form, blending subtlety with precision, ensuring that our maneuvers resonate with the cultural heartbeat of the company. Only then can our pretextual justification bear the desired fruit, which is to organically advance our client's agenda within the organization's ecosystem. Each organization's unique culture significantly impacts our strategic approach. A thorough analysis of the client's organizational culture is non-negotiable. During the discovery process, we apply an extensive corporate culture analysis to get a picture of the organization's ethnography that is as detailed as possible. This means diving deep into both the visible and invisible structures. We explore the formal hierarchy and the informal networks. You know what I'm talking about, those unstated communication channels where real influence often happens. We have a proprietary, multi-pronged approach that's way too cumbersome for me to go into detail right now. But let me share a few high-level aspects for you to get an idea of how we think about culture and how each of these cultural dimensions impacts the construction of and the messaging of our pretextual justification. By the way, you'll probably also notice that the lens through which we see the organization's culture is in keeping with our stated domains of expertise, which are the disciplines, again, of change management, organizational development, and corporate governance. The first lens we use to examine an organization's culture is its attitude toward change. In organizations that prioritize reliable stability, meaning they are change resistant, they're cautious about innovation, and they're generally risk averse, our pretextual justification should be tactfully crafted, underscoring continuity while subtly downplaying any potential for operational disruption. We position our proposals as nuanced, evolutionary enhancements to current practices, emphasizing safety, dependability, and risk control. Conversely, in environments where a zeal for growth and an openness for novel ideas, meaning they are change embracing, they are welcoming to innovation, and they generally have a higher tolerance for risk. In that kind of environment, our pretextual justifications can adopt a more audacious and creative tone. We can position our strategies as forward-thinking and visionary, framing our ideas as catalysts for transformative progress. In these settings, our solutions are presented as gateways to pioneering advancements, aligning with this particular organization's enthusiasm for trailblazing endeavors. Okay, the second lens we use to examine an organization's culture is its disposition towards how it expands capacities, capabilities, and core competencies. For organizations that value individual autonomy and continuous learning, we tailor our strategies to bolster self-direction, self-management, and personal responsibility for career growth. Our tactics highlight empowerment and ongoing skill development. This approach nurtures a culture that values individual excellence by spotlighting personal achievements. In contrast, however, for organizations with a more structured collective ethos, our methods focus on reinforcing coordinated actions, clear guidelines, and collaborative effectiveness. In these environments, we strengthen systematic processes and team dynamics. We concentrate on enhancing existing competencies, consolidating recognized expertise, and we praise collective proficiencies. All of this ensures that our strategies are in harmony with the organization's values for communal ties. The third and final lens we use to examine an organization's culture is its stance on governance. In firms where oversight is stringent, compliance is critical, and decision-making is consolidated, our strategies bolster accountability, transparency, and protocol adherence. We align with their meticulous governance ethos by focusing on the efficacies of executive directives through channels of centralized oversight. We make it explicit that we are honoring established hierarchies in these settings that have high power distance. On the other hand, in more dynamic governance environments, typically known for quick decision-making, our emphasis shifts towards agility and rapid market responsiveness. In these scenarios, we champion collaborative governance and collective input, promoting shared responsibility and inclusive decision-making that honors their established democratized processes. In these kinds of environments with a low power distance ethos, our tactics aim at empowering the lower echelons and flattening the hierarchies. This mirrors their egalitarian principles. So as you can see, by customizing our pretextual justification to each organization's cultural idiosyncrasies, we facilitate seamless integration of our strategies and thereby amplifying our clients' capacity to proficiently maneuver and exert influence within the corporate power hierarchy. Each cultural dimension shapes how we construct and message our pretextual justification, ensuring they are strategically sound, culturally congruent, and as influential as possible within the unique ecosystem of the client's organizations. Okay, let's distill this down to its essence. Capturing a comprehensive picture of the organization's ethnography isn't just an academic exercise. It's a practical necessity that goes hand in hand with crafting the pretextual justification, which is, again, the foundation we use to control the narrative and manage the optics. Now, armed with this insight, as we dive into the thick of strategizing and designing and executing our political maneuvers, we are then better equipped to predict responses to the actions we take and expand the menu of our tactical options and make our strategy more robust against scenarios that would have otherwise been in our blind spots. All of that is possible because this exercise allows us to confidently answer three very important questions. First, what's the expected organizational reaction to each of our political gambits? Understanding the cultural fabric allows us to predict and anticipate responses, turning potential obstacles into stepping stones. The second question we ask ourselves is, how do we broaden our tactical playbook for enhanced flexibility and agility? A deep cultural understanding opens up a wider array of moves, allowing us to be nimble and adaptable. It's about having more cards in our hand that are better suited for the specific game we're playing. And the last question that we ask ourselves is, how do we fortify our strategy to ensure it's compelling and unassailable? A strategy that's robust needs to be a strategy that's deeply rooted in the nuances of the organization's culture. It's not just about having a good plan. This isn't just about knowing the battlefield. It's about understanding the terrain so well that every move we make feels as natural as if anyone else in the organization could have thought of the idea themselves. Only then does the entire political strategy have any hope of succeeding. All right, let's wrap up. In this episode, we've dissected the concept of pretextual justification and its critical role as the foundation of our campaigns. We also underscored the importance of aligning this component, the pretextual justification, with each organization's unique cultural landscape. This is more than just a communications tactic for message discipline. I argue that it's the linchpin of the entire political strategy. Synchronizing both of these elements is the cornerstone of controlling the narrative and managing the optics. If you're serious about mastering the intricacies of your organization's political landscape and power dynamics, our newsletter is an essential resource. No, this isn't yet another stale and boring newsletter on generic management tips. This is a breakdown of how our team thinks about the intersection of executive leadership, organizational power, and enterprise politics. We give you knowledge graphs and mind maps to help clarify these complex concepts, along with the practical insights that you can put to use right away. It's absolutely free, so don't miss out. Visit durableleadership.com/newsletter to get instant access. Take your first step towards securing your competitive edge. Go to durableleadership.com/newsletter to sign up today. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of the Durable Leadership team, I'm John Lamb, reminding you that power is never given, so make your moves with careful precision. Take care.